One of the fears that many parents with the kids with some spectrum of sensory processing issues or disorders have is that how their kids will adapt in a social environment, be in school, kindergarten, or just the playground, because they can see that their children are a bit different, let's say. So a lot of anxiety comes from there. So what would be your advice here?
I think that it is hard for these kids to be in a group sometimes. If they do have auditory, if you kind of pick up that they're having trouble processing language and things like that, they're going to have a harder time playing with a group of children that where there's a lot of talking back and forth. And when kids play, especially when they get more language skills, how they're kind of saying, what role each person is going to have and what action they're going to do. And, like we're in the jungle and you're going to be the elephant and I'm going to be the hunter and what have you. That kind of stuff, this kid is going to be lost. And so they may kind of just move away and go play around by themselves. So that might be a kid who, just find like do one friend at a time, a play date with one kid at a time. And the same if they don't like to be touched or roughhoused with, that it might
Mhm.
be the same thing with that kind of child. Um, as far as, how to deal with the social part of it, I think sometimes too, helping as the child gets a little older, helping them to understand what's going on with them. That they're not bad or they're not abnormal. Their nervous system is just a little bit different from other people. And explain to them, how you don't like to wear, this or that, and it's because, your brain is very sensitive to those kinds of sensations, and it's okay. But, and so so I think, a little bit of education goes a long way as they start to get older.
And I would assume that, helping them to explain again when they become older, and maybe this is already the first grade, second grade, explain to other kids like what works for them, for that, what doesn't work, and like maybe, creating a little bit of healthy boundaries in terms of like not touching randomly,
Right. Yeah,
etc.
that's hard because there are some kids, if you say that to them, then that's the challenge. Now we're going to touch you as much as possible. But yeah, if you can identify, certain children that they would be okay with that, um, then that would be okay. And then of course explain it to the teachers, and maybe if the teacher is aware, then they could also help out with, kind of facilitating the child being able to join the group or choosing a play activity that is something that's, more within their zone of tolerance. Um, so, if the teachers can guide a little bit more that way, that's often helpful. I know when I worked in the
Mhm.
schools, of course, going out to recess, that was the time the teachers had for themselves to get a little break, understandably. But I think
Yes.
sometimes it would be great if the teacher could kind of be aware of what's going on and, the kid who's kind of on the outside of things, or certainly you don't want a kid to be bullied by other children. Um, but helping them to understand that your child might need a little extra encouragement, and also having the teacher kind of scope out the classroom and maybe say to the parent, I think this little girl, Debbie over here, might be a nice play partner for your little girl. Kind of starting to get a feel for, who might be a good match and who might be somebody good to invite for a play date.